Hello, guys and gals, me Mudahar, and it's a dark, deep dive into one of the most prolific traffickers in human history. Now, a few days ago, I made a video where a massive disclosure of these Epstein files had happened, and I told you back then that I was going to take a couple days, maybe a week, to really review this for myself and, sort of dig deep into all of these millions of files. And I've done that. And it's as dark as you're going to expect it, ladies and gentlemen. So to start off with, obviously last time we covered this, we talked a lot about some pretty prominent names. We talked about the President of the United States. We talked about Bill Gates apparently contracting STDs and allegedly getting medication to then drug his wife with these STDs apparently to rectify that. We've talked about people like Elon Musk, who vehemently denied the fact that they were ever on this island. But then it turns out in the emails that actually you want to be in those islands, okay? You actually want it to be there. So we're going to go through a set of emails, and again, I actually had to really just make sure for this video that I was going to show you every single bit of the breadcrumb trail so you can verify every single thing I show you in this video. There's been a lot of misinformation, there's been a lot of wanton conspiracy theories, and frankly, at this channel, I like to stick to the facts of the situation and what you can readily see. I've always done that for years, anytime I covered anything serious regarding this nature, and I don't intend for that to change. Anyways, going into this, ladies and gentlemen, Elon Musk from a few days ago actually said that his emails were misinterpreted. So again, he calls the release of files a distraction. So to read closer into this, ladies and gentlemen, what he effectively has said is, I don't care about that. What I do care about is we at least attempt to prosecute the people who committed serious crimes with Epstein. I do actually agree with Elon Musk about that, especially regarding exploiting minors. Now, obviously, I don't know where they were getting that misinterpretation from. To be honest with you, I'm actually kind of having to defend Elon. Basically, that's what a headline will say. The actual quote to me didn't really speak what the headline said, but that's why in my videos, like for instance right over here, I'll just show you exactly what he said. Epstein tried to get me to go onto his island, and I refused. Yet they named me even before Prince Andrew. So of course, obviously, if you read through these files, we saw this literally like a week ago, probably just to lure in me, what day and night will be the wildest party on your island? No, ladies and gentlemen, that is straight up from the file disclosure, EFTA 019770056, and as you can see right over here, it is from Elon Musk, and he is just asking what will be the wildest party on the island. So no, that is a stark contradiction. But of course, it's not the only contradiction over here. In fact, for anybody that wants to look closer into this, jmail.world is a great website that actually is more reputable than the government in this case, because while the files seem to go up and down all the time, when the files are uploaded here, from my understanding, they're there forever. And you can see that Elon Musk has constantly been talking to and from Jeffrey Epstein, okay? So these are all the emails that you can dig up and look at. But of course, the most damning is actually right over here when it comes between Leslie Groff and Jeffrey Epstein. So of course, if we go up the email chain, you can see December 13th, which is on the 2013th, after the 2008-2009 actual conviction of Jeffrey Epstein, when a lot of the shit started to come out, the initial wave of bad press. So you can see that Elon Musk writes, will be in BVI, St. Bart's area over the holidays. Is there a good time to visit? To which obviously, if we go up over here, Epstein writes, any day 1st to 8th, play it by ear if you want, always space for you. And then of course, going up over here, Elon writes, okay, probably the 1st then, to which Jeffrey says, the 2nd or 3rd would be perfect, I will come and get you. To which Elon's like, I need to fly back to LA on the night of the 2nd. So, and then of course, actually I could fly back early on the 3rd, we'll be in St. Bart. When should we head to your island on the 2nd? From Elon Musk, literally to Jeffrey Epstein. So of course, obviously, I think the elite of the world pretty much are just completely lying about the situation, basically, in every way. They think you're stupid, okay? They think you're fucking idiots that cannot read files that have been disclosed. So again, I have to ask one of the richest people on the planet, did you want to go to the island? Did you actually think this guy was a creep? Because the emails paint a far different story. I think what's more interesting than the cannibalism angle of this is where the redactions come in. Now remember, the redactions in the original legal disclosure was supposed to be very limited. Like you couldn't, like nobody was going to have their names redacted because of being embarrassed. Really the only thing was that unless there's an active investigation or if If, God forbid, it's a matter of national security, then names get redacted. But this is a set of emails that really freaks me out. So for instance, one email comes from an individual that was redacted, where they wrote, "Thank you for a fun night. Your littlest girl was a little naughty." So of course, that was Jeffrey Epstein responding to that going, "Great." Now, why was that person blanked out? I get Jeffrey Epstein, he's dead. You can't really prosecute the dead anymore. That's up to God. But in reality land, okay, where we're living right now, okay, in the mortal plane, why is this person being protected in a file called EFTA 02394816.pdf? Why is this PDF being protected? That's a serious question that I have. Now, in another email chain, EFTA 02706746.pdf, it gets even more disturbing. So here's a set of 5 images, which obviously are not released, and they shouldn't be released. Now, this is sent to Jeffrey's email account, and it says, "New Brazilian just arrived, sexy and cute, 9YO. Now, look, I'm going to assume 9YO means 9 years old, and of course, best regards. Everything has been fucking blanked out in this situation. It has been so heavily redacted that trying to identify the sicko that has wrote these words is impossible. The government is actually hiding this. Now, is there a national security reason? Is there a fucking investigation? It doesn't seem that way. You know, a day ago, literally the Department of Justice said this. I can't talk about any investigations, but I'll say the following, which is that in July, the Department of Justice said that we had reviewed the files, the Epstein files, and there's nothing in there that allows us to prosecute anybody. So, you're telling me there's nothing after the emails that we just saw? There is fucking nothing that you can do? You are not mad enough at the fact that these fucks think you're nothing but a bunch of dumb goddamn cattle, dude. There's a lot of horrible photographs that appear to be taken by Mr. Epstein or people around him, but that doesn't allow us to necessarily prosecute somebody. So again, this is the federal government basically telling you they're not really gonna do anything about these new files. They've shown you that, you know, it used to be that conspiracies like Pizzagate were talked about in circles. You know, people used to be like, oh, that's not totally real. Come on, there's no secret elite cabal doing kids or anything of that nature. No. Brother, we have the files now showing emails where people are talking about new Brazilians arriving sexy and cute, 9 years old. And you're not going to follow up on that? You're not going to find who this redacted fuck is and actually deliver some justice? Put this person behind bars? You're not going to do that? Is that where we're at as a society, that is somehow tolerated? You are not mad enough, okay? It is so difficult to take your mind off the story because, you know, I started my channel talking about things like creepypastas and scary stories, but really there is nothing scarier. There's no scarier story than what is happening in front of us in reality right now. You know, I remember like months ago, this was the director of the FBI, Kashif Patel, whatever you want to call him. He said some of the most unhinged shit imaginable. Listen to this.
Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday.
But you didn't. You didn't bring that case yesterday. We didn't know these files existed until a few days ago. What is going on with this situation? Why is the DOJ not following up on this? What is that? And you might be able to say like, oh, maybe they did look into that and they didn't come. Then show us you looking into these situations. Show us this stuff. The fact that they've released these files and they're still thinking that we should just believe everything they say at face value is fucking exhausting. It's annoying. It's the most brain dead shit imaginable. And you know the thing that burns me a little bit about this too? There's been a lot of talks about the the DOJ removing files back and forth. There have actually been thousands of documents that have been taken down, even in the latest disclosure. You want to know why? Because they just re-victimized the victims again. So for instance, right over here, the DOJ removed thousands of documents related after the victims said their identities were compromised. So they had flawed redactions on the files that were released on Friday. Those things had to go out because the lives of nearly 100 survivors were being screwed. We're being fucked with. You know, the thing is, they're so good at redacting the sickos that are abusing the children, but they're not good at redacting the children out of here, okay? And somehow the irony is not lost on me that, like, I don't know, I might just get sued for saying this, but the fact that, you've got people in the office of the United States fucking around allegedly with minors, you know, but I'm being age gated on justice.com/Epstein. It's crazy. You have to be over 18 to see these files, but you have to be under 18 to be fucked by the people that are running the country, right? Crazy shit. Even as these files get taken down, trying to look for things like this cross, for instance, which is EFTA 00246-762, I was unable to do so even in the Epstein disclosure, simply because I think maybe it's part of another PDF file that unfortunately I'm unable to find. But it also just could be the fact that it's probably removed because maybe there was something identifying in it. But I mean, you look at photos like these and you think to yourself, what are these people even up to? What are you redacting that's so small and almost child-sized in this image right over here? I have to ask these questions. Honestly, it's just fucked up whenever I look at this. We have these disclosures, but I think what's even more insulting than this is not seeing a follow-up. I think what's even more telling too is the words and the statements made by the president as well too. So listen to him crashing out over this one reporter who even asked about the Epstein victims, and this is just pretty much reflective of.
Yeah, what did you say? Go ahead.
What would you say to the survivors who feel
you are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. She's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face. You know why? You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth, and you're a very dishonest organization, and they should be ashamed of you.
Forget the fact that there's like no professionalism in that response. Like any other president but him would probably have been like responding to that with like some sort of like professionalism. But the thing is, like, the amount of rudeness that has exceeded over here just kind of shows me that maybe they're hitting a fucking nerve. What actually just bugs me though is not that, but actually his response to the DOJ being like moving on with some of these investigations. So listen to this.
And no, he made a statement about me and Jeffrey Epstein. I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact, if you look at the DOJ, they announced, they released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do, because that whole thing has turned out, I mean, other than Bill Clinton and, Bill Gates and lots of people that there are a lot of questions about it. But
yeah, we have a lot of questions, and there definitely is things on the president too. There was actually a fair bit. A lot of times, Mr. Trump was actually mentioned in these files. And when he says the DOJ should move on, to me that is indicative of somebody that just doesn't want this to be pursued. And why would somebody? Here's the thing. Obviously, it's a big deal. People are interested. The reason why people are talking about it is because this is basically the proof that there are actual child molesters, there are actual like sickos in the elite that are running our country and control and dictate what we're allowed to do. We, as a society, should never be dictated by those that think harming children is fucking okay. Now, of course, if you're the president, you should be pushing for the DOJ to go back, look at some of these files, which I've shown you a few examples of them, where they're talking about literal 9-year-olds, and chase those people down and uncover this vast network of actual traffickers around the world, okay? People who are being protected and people who are being redacted are individuals that should be chased down. I don't care about Jeffrey Epstein anymore because he is fucking dead. I do, however, care about the people that he was connected with, the people that, were involved with seeing some of these minors that are actually being protected, redacted by the government. That is never okay. The FBI, the DOJ should chase these people to the ends of the fucking earth and bring justice to the families and the victims involved in this case. And no normal president or somebody that, in my opinion, like the kind of statements that Trump makes, at least make me personally believe that this motherfucker has probably done some of the worst things out there. Because why would anybody want the DOJ to just move on to some other story? This is something they should complete, see through to the end, and stop. Because what I'm worried about the most is that this is still going on. Just because Jeffrey is dead doesn't mean the people around this network weren't actually still moving around. These are still people that are being protected. These are still people that are possibly victimizing new people. They should be stopped. And you know, it's crazy to say that there are other parts of the world where like actual consequences are happening. So for instance, a couple days ago in Slovakia, the National Security Advisor resigned over the links to Epstein. So inside here, they showed that the Prime Minister resigned after documents released, the National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister, they actually resigned when the documents that were released by the DOJ showed that they were exchanging messages about girls and diplomacy with Jeffrey Epstein. So in parts of the world, they are respectable enough to say, okay, you should leave the fucking government because of your involvement with this guy. And they do. But you don't really see that in the United States. In fact, if anything, you see a whole lot of people who talk about, you know, fucking death penalties to all pedophiles suddenly being fucking quiet now, all of a sudden, when these files have actually been disclosed. There's no time to be quiet anymore, okay? The veil is being ripped away. You're either on the right side or you're either on the side that protects diddlers, okay? You know, for all of my beef with Mama Max, one thing I will definitely probably have to concede and agree on is I do think that we live in a cinematic universe where a pedo elite does actually run the fucking world. As sick and sad as that sounds, we need to talk about it before we can actually move on. I'll get to why in just a minute. Now, obviously, there have been other things regarding Jeffrey Epstein. One of the things that, you know, at least pertains mostly to gamers is when he kind of talks about, you know, real world microtransactions, which I think, you know, aside from just the goofy nature of it, is kind of indicative as to what this guy did, you know, aside from just the physical act towards children. So Jeffrey writes to Pablo's Holman, and there's a lot of mentions of Bobby Kotick in these emails. Which doesn't shock me. You know, Bobby Kotick is an evil bastard himself. But again, you know, anytime people are mentioned, okay, around this person, I always find that there's this commonality of like some evil surrounding them. Anyways, Jeffrey writes, you know, in response to the president of Call of Duty Activision, I'm all for indoctrinating kids into an economy. You gotta love how his example for real world rewards is virtual items in games. Pablos, okay? So Pablos writes that to Jeffrey Epstein, to which, again, Jeffrey writes, again, to Kotick Bobby, X Prize is a good idea, but key is real-world rewards. Learn to read. Cell phone minutes, iPhone credits, virtual items in games. I mean, if Jeffrey was responsible for the fact that microtransactions are pushed this heavily, that wouldn't really shock me, but the thing they're talking about with like children over here is just insane. And here's even more emails too, for instance. Like Jeffrey writes to Bobby, the girls and I are going to see Elon Musk at SpaceX tomorrow. Are you around? To which Jeffrey writes to Bobby, right? Or sorry, Jeffrey to Kotick, right? Again, no thanks, I'm in Long Beach. Because Bobby wrote, I'm here but tied up during the day. Do you want my 407 to fly to Hawthorne Airport? To which Bobby Kotick responds to Epstein, thanks, but rather see you taking girls after to Bel Air. So I imagine girls are probably like his wife and kids or something. But yeah, you can see that they're exchanging and talking pretty heavily to each other, which, again, personally, I think is fucking insane. Now, obviously, a big W for Xbox here, which, you know, aside from the microtransaction discussion, one of the little goofy things was, yes, Epstein was apparently banned on Xbox Live. What his gamertag is, I'm not entirely sure. A day ago, somebody did, however, break into Epstein's Outlook account, so maybe they might be able to figure out what the fuck is actually happening with that gamertag, but the reality is, it just shows you how shitty of a cover-up job this actually can be, where again, people dug up the account, they found out the password is apparently number 1 island. Now again, I haven't jumped into this account and can confirm it 100%, but yes, they did in fact apparently allegedly break into his accounts and dig out more information over here and more stuff that they could, again, correspond with the actual file disclosure. Now, according to the OP, it seems pretty empty, and again, people are saying just check out drafts, everything of that nature, but yeah, it seems like whatever is in there, whatever shards of data are being archived, and I'm sure more of that information will come out pretty soon too. There was another conspiracy theory that kicked into the story too, where Epstein was buddies with the creator of 4chan, and Poll was created around the time that they actually met. 4chan went from an anime image board to a place of political extremism that pitted masses online against each other. I will actually say 4chan used to be fun, but even on the paranormal board, it seems like half of that shit is just having Poll leak out to it. But anyways, I wanted to look a little bit deeper into this conspiracy theory. And of course, obviously, let's start from the beginning. If we look at Poll, right, Poll, which is politically incorrect, that was launched around October 23rd, 2011. So there have actually been emails where they do talk about Christopher Poole. So again, EFTA 019-92938.pdf has Jeffrey talking about last night and this morning. Fun, also met some cool people. There's a cool guy, kid, that you should meet, Christopher Poole. He is only 23rd. Read his bio. The rest of the day in Seattle and MTG, tomorrow morning for NYC. So yeah, around 2011, that is around the, what is that? Is that American date? So that would be like October 20th, 2011. Okay, so October 20th, 2011. When was Poll actually made, on the other hand? October, yeah, literally 3 days later, apparently after meeting Chris Poole, was the creation of the containment board known as Poll. So of course, obviously, you know, you've got Boris, well, from Jeffrey over here, right? Of course, Boris writes, yes, he is great. No, I had no clue who he was when we met. He'll be a friend. Obviously, from Jeffrey to Boris, I like Moot a lot. I drove him home. He is very bright. And then, of course, Boris writes, sure, I will be there as well. And of course, we're going back in time. So yeah, he did apparently actually meet Moot, you know, the creator of 4chan, Christopher Poole. And again, I think aside from the calendar dates lining up, I wouldn't necessarily attribute Poll to be an Epstein creation. But if it is, then I guess Epstein really did ruin fucking 4chan. So thank you for that, by the way. Ruining, I mean, this guy is hella connected from what I'm getting out of here. But obviously, the further we go down into it, the more crazier shit kind of comes out, for instance, where, again, you can kind of see what, like, billionaires do in sort of their free time. So here's Jeffrey talking to a guy known as Gino Yu, where he's talking about, like, I just shared with you a message that I got from someone that I'm mentoring based upon the Stages model. Her message popped up as I was about to write to you. The caravan trip has been really wonderful in meeting people that are stage 3. These are people who are developing a different perspective of reality and discovering the gifts that they have. Also in rallying orders who have a strong interest in this area. Among the new projects emerging include a base-to-use science-based approach and Eastern practices to help sort stage 3 people out. I understand you're not happy with the results of the Cuba conference that you funded, okay? But I feel that the work is very important towards helping people identify and recognizing the gifts they have. So that's Gino writing to Jeffrey Epstein. And I saw people sharing this around, like, is Jeffrey financing, like, human, like, experimentation or something in that case? And of course, obviously, I can't necessarily say if that's true or not, but it does end up linking to an Eventbrite, which talks about the Edge of Consciousness tour. And of course, you can see Dr. Gino Yu, the Science of Consciousness right there. Again, I don't know, this might just be like a guy funding money into, like, fucking, I don't know, conscious elevation or something, but it didn't immediately scream super real human experimentation to me. It just seemed like something Epstein was doing aside from, you know, diddling and trafficking children. Of course, you also got things like time travel that was talked about. So inside here, Jeffrey Epstein was CC'd in an email to send from a Noack Martin. It's great how they are able to blank out the names of certain people that are talking about time travel, but not individuals talking about 9-year-olds, you know what I mean? So here he says, Seth, we should explore the biological consequences of time travel. It would be amusing to calculate the rate of evolution of a population that can travel in time. So it's just crazy shit. It is insane stuff to see. And of course, there's obviously other situations too, like for some reason in EFTA 002822798, there is the entire manual page for NVIDIA SMI, which is a tool used to query NVIDIA information underneath a Linux system. So right here, apparently he had a man page for querying your NVIDIA driver. I don't know why he has this. Maybe it's just, maybe it was honestly part of like some server like that they grabbed from like their system that was hosting a lot of this crazy shit. There was also a Windows 7 CD key, which I can't show you because one YouTuber, Enderman, actually had his video taken down because he showed you how to activate using a Windows key grabbed from a laptop that Epstein had. Now, of course, obviously, that's because you're sharing a CD key around. Not really going to do it. Epstein also went to places like Defcon, for instance, too, back in like 2018, which again, really doesn't have anything super duper crazy in this situation, but it is just him talking about going to a hacking convention in Vegas. So here he's talking to Steve Bannon at Defcon at the hacking conv. My boys tell me the new trick is to get caught. The newer trick, false flags, popular, Iran, China, Russian, Balkans, accomplishes the same goals. So yeah, Jeffrey Epstein went to one of the most insanely awesome hacker conventions in the world. D-Tangent comes in 3 days ago. It's like, he actually clarifies, it's like, Vincenzo approached me for free badges and I said no, and pointed him to the Epstein Wikipedia page and tried to warn him to stay away from any involvement. I didn't realize how deep it went. As far as I know, Epstein never attended. All the other behind-the-scenes stuff is wild, but not surprising. My impression is that Joichi Ito was the main conduit of getting tech people involved with Epstein. So Epstein wasn't really interested in DEF CON. It's just like, kind of like, hey, let me add another, let me add another connection point to another part of the world. That's how he stayed so connected. That's how he was so connected with a lot of these people, because he was getting involved everywhere. He was just in every pie. Now look, ultimately the end, aside from this deep dive, there's really not much more to go down here. A lot of the emails that I showed you are verifiable. You can read them for yourselves. And there are some conspiracy theories that I think people are bringing up that are kind of muddying the waters. Look, there's a lot of evil in this story, right? And the evil is pretty much as blatant as you can get. There are files of people mentioning 9-year-olds. There are files of people mentioning little girls. And those people are redacted. Those people are protected. And it seems like the administration of the United States is not really interested in pursuing that. Now, whether that, implicates the guy at the top, whether it implicates a lot of other elite people in the United States, which it does. People like Bill Gates have been mentioned, and now they're saying they were never on an island. You got people like Elon Musk who are now exposed to saying, oh, actually, I do want to go to the island. There is a lot of people at the top that are being slowly exposed and pulled into this vortex for their own actions, by the way, nobody else's. And that needs to be investigated further. The people that are being protected by the US government through these redactions need to be exposed. They need to be brought to the light of day. You are not mad enough. You need to see this stopped. Look, one of the reasons why I'm making these kind of videos is because I can't move on, okay? My issue is I've been so black-pilled looking at the story because, for a while it's like, you read conspiracies online of like, oh, this crazy elite in the world is taking advantage of minors and people and trafficking them. And they're connected to every powerful person in the world. And you think, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. It's probably not true. But we have the files now to verify and confirm that, no, I was wrong. The conspiracy theory is true. Maybe the people on 4chan had something of value to add. And now you're not seeing the story being followed through, which is the most frustrating part of the story, in my opinion, right? Like, these people should be put into jail. They should be arrested. They should be sent to prison. But you're not seeing it happen. And that is the part that truly burns me as a person. I feel like out of all the scary things that I've ever seen on the internet, this is the scariest. Because it's real. Because it exists. Because it existed, and it still persists to this day. So, I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to ask you if you like what you saw. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it, because it's a pretty dark video. But I think it's a story that we need to keep covering because, now that it's been brought to light, if nothing comes of it, then we as a society have truly accepted that sickos like this can run the world and get away with the worst of crimes. And if we can let something like this be normalized, what is the next thing, right? Really, what is the next? We should all just come together and say, it doesn't matter if you're Donald Trump, doesn't matter if you're Bill Clinton, doesn't matter if you're Bill Gates, doesn't matter if you're Elon Musk, doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what your political ideologies are, who you are. If you are willing to harm children, if you're willing to harm men and women, if you're willing to traffic people, if you're willing to do the most disgusting actions and be associated with the most disgusting people, then you don't have a place in our society. You either get jailed, you either get your shit taken away, you get sent into the fucking void where you have no influence anymore. Because the moment you let these people control you, it's done, it's over. My dad left his country where he was born in because of corruption, because the system was so fucked. And you know what burns me about it too is that he moved to a country, rebuilt his entire life. He spent more of his life in a country he wasn't born in. I mean, by extension, me too. Than a country he grew up in, right? And now I think what's fucked up is even he has to slowly realize you can't, you're in a world where you can't even run away from that corruption. If it's so bad in America, if it's so bad on this side of the world, if it's so bad in places that we once held up in respect, nobody else has a chance, I guess, is really all that's fucked through my head. Anyways, I'm out. See you guys later.